Doing this book with Gary was the most fulfilling professional experience I've had as a writer. Forget my 27-some years in journalism. Because Gary is the one, when we were writing it, you know, I was more the technocrat and Gary was more the cops reporter. Gary was the one that was always saying, this is going to make a great cops and robbers movie. And I said, Gary, you're right.
You know, in every revolution, someone has to fire the first shot. Open the safe, now! Now!
Let's go!
Sheriff Laughlin, Terry Husk. I had a question about some flyers I keep seeing. White power. Is that the Aryan Nation?
You know what my problem is with every fanatic?
You have to have somebody to blame for your life.
Over 40 years ago, outspoken and controversial Denver radio host Alan Berg was targeted and murdered in an anti-Semitic attack by a group of white nationalists. While a reporter for the Rocky Mountain News, City Councilman Kevin Flynn co-authored a book, The Silent Brotherhood, which served as the inspiration for the upcoming film, The Order, that explores the connection between Berg's murder and a neo-Nazi movement that shocked the nation.
Killing Alan Berg was the crime that really set the FBI on the true trail, that this wasn't just armored car robberies or bank robberies or some counterfeiting that was going on. This was a targeted assassination. It was meant to send a message. 13 bullets for the guy lying there in the driveway, one of the biggest celebrities in town. He called himself the man you love to hate. I was at the Rocky Mountain News for 27 years, and I was deeply involved in covering the local politics. The shooting happened around 9:30 in the evening, and Gary Gerhardt, my partner in writing the book, was one of our cops reporters, and he had a lot of sources over across the street here in the police headquarters. And so I started developing sources in the, let's say, in the sort of the far right, white supremacist, white nationalist area. When they were able to tie the Alan Berg murder into the broader network of white nationalists and Klan, that all started here on Adams Street. So we started delving into this. We found Aryan Nations up in Idaho. We found the connection there, and it was frustrating because, you know, it's a newspaper you're writing for and the stories are this long. Here's what happened today. Who's telling the larger story of where these people come from? Why did they think they could do this? Why did they want to do this in the first place? That story needed to be told. Anybody who just read the daily newspaper clippings of this trial and did a little bit of background, they wouldn't understand the larger story of how this fit in a slowly bubbling and evolving fever dream of the white nationalists.
We don't advocate any of our members breaking any laws.
But some do.
Well, you must understand that. Being in a cult like the federal government.
We don't know much about how a movie's made, but Memorial Day week of 23, I called the producer and I said, can we come up and watch some of the filming for that week? And he said, oh, sure. And here we're thinking, when we get there, they're going to say, sit over there, shut up, don't move. You know, you're here, but be quiet. It was the exact opposite. They treated us as though we were part of the company. Some of the cast members would come over and say, tell me more about this character I'm playing. They all had copies of the book. Jude Law, who plays the lead, we had an incredible conversation about some of the characters. Next day, his driver came back and said, you know, after your conversation, I drove him back to Calgary. I just have to tell you, all he talked about during the hour-and-a-half drive was your conversation about these characters that they're all involved in playing. I thought, well, he genuinely listened.
It's happening. War has begun.
You're drawing too much attention.
From who?
The FBI. I've warned you before. You are playing with fire.
The movie had its world premiere at the Venice Film Festival. The movie itself, given the topic and the subject matter, is very dark. It's very scary. It's not a fun movie. And the moment it was over, there was a feeling of, oh man, this isn't over, as we see today. And then people started applauding, and I'm sitting 6 rows behind Jude Law, so I got to see the 1,000 people who are sitting down on the floor level, and we're up in the balcony in the gallery, and they just started applauding and applauding. And it's like, wow, they liked it. Doing this book with Gary was the most satisfying professional experience I'd ever had. And so he passed away 8 years ago. And I had lunch with Nancy, his wife, before I went to Venice, and I asked her, can I take some of Gary's ashes along with me? And she gave me just a little Ziploc with some of his ashes, and I put them in my jacket pocket. So he was with me in the theater during the premiere, and afterward I went outside next to the Cinema Palace, and on the lawn there, I dug a little hole with a little spoon that Nancy gave me, and I put his ashes in the hole, and I covered it up, so Gary will be there forever. And that really means a lot to me.
Stay elevated by subscribing to the city's YouTube page and stay tuned to our social media channels for more content. Don't miss our new episodes of Elevating Denver, premiering each month. Thanks for watching, Denver.